This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of the New Jedi Order Book 2, Dark Tide I Onslaught. And this is, as I said, the second novel in the New Jedi Order series. And again, this series has 19 books in it, so you'll be seeing these videos come out on a slow progression through it. It's probably going to be maybe one a month, maybe two, all depending on how much time I get to read. And honestly, this was another good book. It is really impressive how in this series they were able to go and tell a consecutive story over different authors with the events of a previous story affecting the ones of this one directly. They're all using the same characters, and considering that this is much larger in scope and in published content than the sequel trilogy, it's kind of insane to think that they messed up that badly with the sequels not having a continuity when this book series was able to continue the story from one with a completely different author going and feeling like a direct continuation of it. Is clearly that they were doing a lot better job setting the story before and what they had to set up later. So I think that is a really nice moment and a nice thing to see in it. And of these effects, you definitely see the death of Chewbacca and its impact really on mainly Han Solo and Anakin Solo. You definitely feel bad for both of them, with Anakin blaming himself and Han being very depressed and just not really being himself. In fact, after being in the opening of this novel, Han basically spends the rest of it off drinking and just feeling really bad for the loss of his greatest friend. And I think that everyone would really feel that way if they lost someone that was that close to them. And I like the realisticness of that writing, and you definitely do feel really bad for Han. Even though, if you lost a friend, you may not go in this exact same path. You might be able to deal with it a little better. But it's clear that this destroyed Han, and it really was devastating for him. Going to the other stories of it, and with the primary stuff, there is lots of interesting stories that all eventually diverge to Dantooine, where things get pretty crazy. You have a story with Luke and Jason Solo going and investigating the first world they know was taken by the Vong. And although that story is pretty straightforward, it is still interesting. On the second one, you have Anakin Solo and Mara Jade, where they are going to have Anakin protect Mara and have her try to recover on Dantooine from the virus that she got from the Vong, and that is another definitely interesting and good story where Anakin does learn some lessons. Then there is the story with Leia and Jaina, where Jaina actually gets to join the Rogue Squadron, and it is pretty interesting to see there. You get to see them fighting against the Vong and get pretty much destroyed in this. I think that is a pretty interesting fact. And going to the final one, you have Corin Horn and another Jedi whose name I don't remember. But that story was interesting also, and it is the one that is kept away from the other ones, from all the other stories. I said they do all move to Dantooine, where there is a showdown with the Vong, where although they do manage to escape, you get to see the devastation that the Vong could cause as they kill most of the civilians that they were trying to protect. Another interesting thing in this is the New Republic, and more specifically Boris Phalia, not wanting to take the Vong as a threat. And although I do know where the story goes, you can tell that it's going to be really bad for them. And obviously, when you were first reading the series, you didn't know that it was about 365 trillion people will be dying in this war. But it is pretty insane, and I don't think that anyone really would have seen how bad this could have turned out for the galaxy, at least when they were originally reading it. But you definitely knew that once again Phalia was in the wrong, and he was just trying to cover himself politically, and that will eventually end up costing his own life. That is later in the series. But again, I'm a giant Star Wars fan, and I knew the basics of what happens in the war and many of the major moments. But I did want to read this series myself because, although it is long, and I probably won't be reading this again for at least another 5 years after I finish it, because of just how long it is of a dedication to read through it, unless all of the books are released as unabridged books on Audible. Then it'll be a little more frequent since I can get through them a little faster and be able to do other stuff while listening to them. But yeah, honestly, I do really like the story and I think it's interesting. Only thing, as I said, I wish that these were in their full forms on Audible since they're only abridged novels, which means that not all of it is included, and that's such an annoying thing to me. I wish that they always just did the unabridged novels because the abridged ones cut out stuff and it just makes it something I don't want to check out, and I'd rather read the full version of it. And that's why this series is taking so long, because honestly, if I just had the full audiobooks of these, I probably would have already been finished by now. And that is just. Well, actually, I would definitely be finished by now because I would have read this years ago, because it took me a while to collect all the books in this series. But honestly, I want to know what you think of these books, and this one specifically. I will be continuing on with other ones. I believe I'm somewhere between, I think, a quarter to maybe a third of the way through Dark Tide II. So I'd expect a review of that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But I do want to know what you think, as I said. So please leave it in the comments, and I'll see you in the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.